Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. A group of 12 New Yorkers now in the process of deciding whether to convict former President Trump, the latest in the New York trial, and Trump's new comments as jury's deliberations are underway. States over 1,000 miles from the southern border aren't immune from the immigration crisis. Congressmen traveled to North Dakota today to look at the impact. A case of the highly pathogenic bird flu is detected at a large egg farm in Iowa. The state says more than 4 million chickens will have to be slaughtered. Female inmates housed with male sexual offenders. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with two women's groups for analysis of a controversial law. A French lawmaker waves a Palestinian flag during the French National Assembly. More on the move and the controversy it sparked. And a hacker says he's selling personal information from Ticketmaster users on the dark web. Details on the data that's been stolen from millions of people. More than 500 million Ticketmaster customers are being warned today that their personal information may be sold by hackers. The data includes names, addresses, and credit card information. The incident was first reported by Australian media. The hacker says the stolen information is up for sale on the dark web. He's asking for $500,000 in ransom. Live Nation, the owner of Ticketmaster, has not yet made a comment. And jury deliberations in Trump's New York trial are now in their third hour. The former president again calls it a rigged trial, as a verdict could come within days, if not hours. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao, who's outside the courthouse there. Good afternoon, Iris. What's the latest on this key day?
Good afternoon to you, Chris. So the jurors are still deliberating after more than 3.5 hours, and all 12 of them are together, as Trump and his lawyers will also have to remain at the courthouse during this period. The former president earlier today again called this a form of weaponization of government, adding that Mother Teresa can beat these charges. Watch.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. What's happening here is weaponization at a level that nobody's seen before, ever. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen. So I'll stay around here. This is 5 weeks. Then 5 weeks of really essentially not campaigning.
And earlier this morning, Judge Juan Merchan finished giving his juror instructions, in which he told these jurors that, one, they have to set aside their personal opinions or biases, and that they also have to be convinced beyond reasonable doubt to deliver a guilty verdict, and vice versa. He also told the jurors that they don't have to agree on what the underlying crime is beyond just the potential misdemeanor of falsifying business records, and to be able to deliver a guilty verdict. And that is a major sticking point, as Trump's team has been insisting that there's no crime at all. Back to you.
And Iris, how's President Biden's campaign reacting to the upcoming verdict? Has President Biden spoken about it at all?
So not yet, but we could see that coming soon. Politico reported earlier this week that Biden would speak about the upcoming verdict from the White House in the coming days, though the White House would not confirm that. But the White House today called this day an important day as jury deliberations began, and President Biden just said this at a Philadelphia campaign event. Watch.
I'm showing you who I am, and Trump has shown you who he is. And today Donald Trump is pandering and peddling lies and stereotypes for your vote so he can win for himself, not for you. Well, Donald Trump will have a message for you. Not in our house and not in our watch.
And now the judge has said before that jurors today will be done around 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, two big things to watch for will be, one, if Trump again comes out to address reporters, and second, if any actual verdict will come out before then. Back to you.
All right, Iris Tao, thank you very much. For more on this Trump trial, we're joined by Paul Kamenar. He is the lead counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center. Paul, it's good to see you again. A lot of new developments in this case since we last spoke. How long do you think the jury deliberations will take? What's the legal procedure for this case from now?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. I mean, they could come back with a verdict this afternoon, but the jury instructions were very long. There are a lot of facts here to sift through. I don't think the jury will come back until probably Friday afternoon, so they can have a verdict and then go home for the weekend. So I'll give it at least a couple days.
Okay, and the judge told the jury they can't convict based solely on Michael Cohen's testimony. Cohen is considered an accomplice, and his testimony must be supported by other evidence. Does the jury have enough evidence to use to convict Trump?
I don't think they do, and that's right. The jury could disregard everything that Michael Cohen stated or testified to because he is a convicted liar, and if they don't believe one thing he said, they don't have to believe anything that he said. But it has to be corroborated, and there is some evidence that the prosecution claims you don't have to believe Michael Cohen. They have these documents, they have the testimony of other witnesses like Hope Hicks, and they're trying to piece it together that way. But I think that's pretty flimsy evidence, and I don't think it reaches the high level of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
And Paul, there's a lot of controversy about the jury's instructions today. If Trump is convicted and he appeals, could the jury's instructions become a point of contention?
Absolutely. In a lot of these white-collar crime-type cases, the jury instructions are vital in terms of making sure that the verdict reached is a lawful one. And these jury instructions are very voluminous. They're also contradictory. And one thing that I fault in it is the jury instructions regarding the Federal Election Campaign Act. It says that it's illegal if a candidate receives or campaign, somebody gives more than $2,700 to the campaign. So the jury might think, oh, well, let's see, the Stormy Daniels, that's $130,000. That's more than $2,700. But omitted from that instruction is that a candidate can give unlimited amounts of money to his own campaign, up to $1 million or more. So that's a key feature that's missing from this jury instruction. And if the jury thinks that it's a campaign violation, that will be, I predict, reversed on appeal because of the faulty jury instructions here.
All right, Paul Kamen, our lead counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
And some congressmen say every state has become a border state. They traveled from D.C. to North Dakota today, examining the impact of the border crisis on the state up north. North Dakota's Attorney General says his state is being devastated by fentanyl pills coming through the southern border, possibly even more than the states down south. That's because of the huge profits that can be made far away from the southern border.
The gangs have identified an opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, a 2-day drive to North Dakota with pills that cost you a dime, 15 cents, or a quarter on a bad day, and you're fetching $60 a pill on average up here. The profits are astronomical.
He added that many of the pills are then being sold to people who are already addicted, but not all. Some are being pushed to new people to make them addicted. Sometimes North Dakota law enforcement also has to process illegal immigrants who enter the U.S. down south. A sheriff who testified at today's hearing says that can be dangerous because they don't have the systems in place to vet them.
We don't have access to checking criminal histories like our federal partners do. And without understanding what people's criminal histories are and being given the direction to, that they can't do anything, that we should just let them go, that doesn't give us a good feeling, because now we're letting someone go and we don't have any idea who they are.
If you want to see the full highlights of today's hearing, tune into our evening news with Tiffany Meyer at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Next, an investigation into a deadly apartment building explosion in Ohio is underway today. The blast killed one person and injured 7 others. The blast happened Tuesday afternoon in Youngstown. It collapsed part of the ground floor into the building's basement, sending the facade across a street. The 13-story building has a Chase Bank branch at street level and apartments in upper floors. A 27-year-old bank worker died in the explosion. Fire investigators first believed the blast was caused by natural gas. City leaders say the Ohio State Fire Marshal's office is handling the investigation. And in Tennessee, Republican Governor Bill Lee signs a law that punishes adults who help minors receive abortions or cross-sex drugs and procedures. The new law stops any adult who intentionally recruits, harbors, or transports a pregnant minor within the state to get an abortion without consent from the minor's parents or guardians. There are exceptions for ambulance drivers, emergency medical service personnel, and other common transportation services. Supporters of the measure say parents have a right to know what's going on with the health of their daughters. The CEO of Planned Parenthood, Ashley Caulfield, says her organization is consulting with their lawyers about how to comply with the law or whether they can challenge it. The new law takes effect in July. Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged $135 million in aid to Moldova for energy security and counter Russian disinformation. Moldova is his first stop on a brief tour of Europe. Blinken opened the short visit to Eastern Europe with a stop at Chisinau, Moldova's capital. He said $85 million would go to bolster energy infrastructure and $50 million was aimed at overhauling the energy and farming industries and deterring disinformation. He also addressed weapons sent to Ukraine, an area of cooperation between the U.S. and Europe that's currently under pressure.
We haven't encouraged or enabled strikes outside of Ukraine, but Ukraine, as I've said before, has to make its own decisions about the best way to effectively defend itself. We're going to make sure that it has the equipment it needs to do that.
More updates coming in about the war in Gaza. Senator Lindsey Graham is meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem today.
This is one of the most challenging times for the State of Israel since its founding. There are so many problems and challenges to overcome, but one of the problems you never have to worry about is America. I promise you that we will do all we can, Mr. Prime Minister, to hold the ICC account for this outrage against the people of Israel.
Israel's military leaders say they now have control of Gaza's border with Egypt. Israel previously stated it was carrying out limited operations in eastern Rafah along the Gaza-Egypt border. The fighting in Rafah isn't pleasing the U.S. and its allies. They're warning Israel that a full-scale attack on Rafah could create more Palestinian casualties. Earlier today, an Israeli military leader said the war with Hamas will likely last until the end of the year. And in France, a member of parliament waved a Palestinian flag during a session, a move that stirred controversy and illustrated the political tensions in the country. NTD's France correspondent David Vivez has more.
The French National Assembly experienced a dramatic interruption on Tuesday as French Minister Franck Riester addressed Parliament about the situation.
You can't ignore the hostages held by Hamas, who died as a result of Hamas's actions.
Member of the left-wing parliamentary group Sébastien Delogu waved a Palestinian flag, a move to protest and draw attention to the ongoing Israeli bombardment of Gaza. Security personnel then removed Delogu and confiscated the flag. National Assembly President Yael Braun-Pivet deemed the action unacceptable and promptly suspended the session. Delogu was later sanctioned with a 2-week expulsion and a wage reduction. The leftist parliamentary group, however, supported Delogu's act. According to the president of the Anti-Semitism Watchguard Bureau, leftist political group LFI has crafted a long-running Palestinian narrative.
This shows what the left calls the convergence of struggles. Convergence of struggles means, among other things, defending oppressed peoples against the Israelis, who are presented as the evil oppressors.
This follows other turmoil in parliament, including a physical altercation between a conservative member of parliament, MP and a member of the LFI group.
What's in it for the French? There's no interest other than purely political. It's a tragedy for French politics. And that's why so many of us are angry with the left, because it has betrayed its ideals.
Norway, Ireland and Spain officially recognized the Palestinian state yesterday. French President Emmanuel Macron said that it was not the right move at the moment. David Vivez, NTD News, Paris.
Coming up, Nissan warns the owners of 84,000 older vehicles about a dangerous defect. The problem has already resulted in injuries and, in some cases, death. And female inmates housed with male sexual offenders. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with two women's groups for analysis of a controversial law. That and more after the break.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shen Yun.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
Welcome back. A case of the highly pathogenic bird flu has been detected at a large egg farm in Iowa. The state says more than 4 million chickens will have to be slaughtered. The disease was found at a farm in Sioux County. Last week, the virus was confirmed at an egg farm west of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Nearly 1.4 million chickens had to be killed. According to the Department of Agriculture, more than 90 million birds have been slaughtered since the outbreak began in 2022. Bird flu has become somewhat common among poultry, but its spread to cattle has increased concerns about the disease. The virus has been confirmed on dairy cattle farms in 9 states so far. And staying with the bird flu, the disease has been confirmed in alpacas for the first time. That's according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The animals that tested positive were on a farm in Idaho where poultry had also tested positive for the virus. The USDA noted finding other infected animals on the same farm as infected birds wasn't necessarily a surprise. The gene sequence of the virus isolated from the alpacas shows that it is closely related to the H5N1 viruses that are currently circulated in dairy cattle. Scientists have closely watched the H5N1 virus for roughly 2 decades. While it has primarily affected birds, the virus has been infecting a wider variety of wild and farmed mammals in recent years. Human cases have been reported sporadically around the globe over the years, including 3 in the U.S. No person-to-person transmission has been reported. And California allows men who identify as women to be housed in women's prisons. The law took center stage at a recent hearing. A biological man stands accused of 2 counts of rape and 1 count of witness intimidation at a women's facility. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with the Women's Liberation Front and the group of Women to Women who protested the law.
Senate Bill 132, sponsored by State Senator Scott Wiener, permits men who identify as women to be housed in women's facilities. The law was billed as protecting such individuals, who it says are more vulnerable to sexual abuse and harassment. Former California Corrections Officer Hector Bravo Farrell is blowing the whistle on the practice. He says the law has put women in danger from sexual predators.
They were excited because California, the Department of Corrections gave them a perfect storm to be able to exploit their sexual predatory behaviors. That's unethical, that's immoral, that's dangerous. The victimization of legitimate female inmates.
The whistleblower says women are retaliated against if they try to voice their complaints or their concerns about the victimization.
I couldn't imagine being in a situation where nobody can hear you, right? Where everything you say is getting shut down. These are monsters. So you give them a green light and a pass to go into these women's facilities, they're chomping at the bits.
Farrell says correctional officers know in their heart it's not right and have reached out to him.
See, their job is not to stop the individual from going into there. That he's already been approved through the proper chains to be able to let, the wolf go into the chicken's den.
Sharon Byrne, executive director of the Women's Liberation Front, says a California Inspector General report found that dangerous males with histories of sexual violence are gaming the system to enter women's prisons.
That their history of sexual assault was not allowed to be considered in their transfer, that the sort of supreme consideration was that they identify themselves as women. That's it. That was the supreme consideration.
Byrne says they recently got a call from a panicked healthcare worker inside a women's facility in Xochitl that houses 1,900 women. 243 men are already in the prison, and 500 men are on the list to transfer in.
The way that the law is written, the deck is stacked against the prison. The prison really cannot say no.
Amy Ichikawa, founder of Women to Women, spent 5 years at Xochitl Women's Facility. She started the organization due to the lack of re-entry services for women. Ichikawa reports that women inside described the situation as unbearable.
No one's ever had this level of control over the inmate population or staff in the history of the Department of Corrections. The individuals who have transferred into the prison using SB 132 are able to pick their housing, their units, their rooms, their roommates.
The women's rights organizer says it's like putting kids in a candy store.
And the fact that the law was written in a way that doesn't allow the Department of Corrections to take someone's criminal history into consideration when deciding whether or not they can transfer is extremely reckless.
The publication 4W cited a 2021 Bureau of Prisons report showing that 50% of male inmates identifying as females are sex offenders. California Department of Correctional Facility stats also show 1/3 of males seeking transfers to women's prisons are sex offenders. Women's groups opposing Senate Bill 132 claim it violates Article 5 of the 1947 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which bans cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Nissan is warning the owners of 84,000 vehicles about their airbags. If deployed during a crash, they could send metal fragments into drivers and passengers. One Nissan passenger was killed by an exploding airbag inflated. As many as 58 people have been injured since 2015. Nissan said the Do Not Drive warning covers certain 2002 through 2006 Sentra models. The advisory applies to Pathfinder SUVs from between 2002 and 2004 and Infiniti QX4 SUVs between 2002 and 2003 as well. The automaker says owners should contact their dealers to have inflators replaced for free. Honda, Ford, BMW, Toyota, Stellantis, and Mazda have issued similar warnings for some of their vehicles equipped with Takata airbags. And a multi-billion-dollar oil company merger is on the horizon, and Samsung Electronics employees may strike. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Thank you, Chris. Big oil seems to be getting bigger with big deals. ConocoPhillips said Wednesday that it had agreed to buy Marathon Oil in an all-stock deal worth $22.5 billion, including about $5.4 billion of debt. So Marathon Oil shareholders will receive a quarter of a share of ConocoPhillips for each Marathon share they own. And it expects cost savings of $500 million within the first full year after closing of the transaction. Now, the acquisition adds over 2 billion barrels of reserves to ConocoPhillips' portfolio. The company plans to repurchase over $7 billion in shares in the first full year and over $20 billion in the first 3 years. Marathon Oil has operations in the Bakken Basin in North Dakota, Permian Basin in North Delaware, and South Texas's Eagle Ford Basin. These are regions that are prime targets for producers looking to increase their inventory. Now, in other news, a labor union representing tens of thousands of Samsung Electronics workers announced Wednesday that it will go on strike next week. And this is in what is reportedly the first such walkout at the South Korean tech firm. The nationwide Samsung Electronics union asked workers to hold a one-day strike and use their paid leave on June 7th in response to failed negotiations over pay between the union and company management. The union represents more than 28,000 workers at Samsung. This is according to union representatives to reporters. That's all from me, Chris. Back to you.
Don Ma, thank you. And we have this just in. The jury has made 4 requests in former President Trump's New York criminal trial. They're asking for David Pecker's testimony about a decision he made, a phone conversation with Trump, and a Trump Tower meeting, as well as Michael Cohen's testimony about that meeting. The judge says he will bring the jury in to hear the requested testimony again. For more information on this, tune in to NTD's Capitol Report at 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. See you tomorrow.